My way home, if it's good to be alone, treasure my independence. I get lost rather frequently. Night-minded, with stars in my head, I left my tube line and stopped beyond. The walk home model, the order reverse, I couldn't recognise my streets until a young woman with a phone and a sat-nav turned her screen upside down to walk me the way. You do meet nice people. She told me a satellite is now guiding me home, the heavens above looking after me.
We're actually, you're going to read a couple of these, so I'm just going to finish with
The Scaffolders of Me. The scaffolders of me, balanced on boards, bare-chested, the men heave metal bars up to the sky, creating a cage around me, my flat. I feel awkward about them, looking in, unmade bed, the messy kitchen. In my head I give them names. Jim, outside my bedroom window, fastens a coupler, belt slipping on his hips, heavy with tools. Climbs to make another floor. Dave has a monkey tattoo on his left shoulder blade, swings with one arm from bar to bar. Shorts reaching towards his knees reveal the cheeks of cleavage. Ken notices the sea of papers, asks, "What kind of writer are you?" "I'm a poet." "Oh, what was he hoping for?" But Jack wants to know where he can buy my poems. I fetch the book, reduce the price. "Deal." He fishes out a coin. "But you might not like them." "Why wouldn't I?" He looks up at me. At lunchtime, he reads them lying in the garden where the old fox sleeps. He reads them all, reads them again.
So I also know Beata quite well, and she's a fantastic poet, but also she's a fantastic poet, and she did perform quite often in the streets of Camden. She was in the libraries. The libraries was her biggest love, so she was a promoter from Antrim Gardens Library. She tried to save that. So we always felt we should give her legacy something to remember her by. This is the news. Coming back and forth to Wales, she used to come on the train. So, there she goes. "I'm unhappy when I can't write, I fret. Feel empty, it just won't come. My son, the sculptor, calls from Wales, reminds me of what Rodin once said to Roca. He urges me to look at what is just there, to simply, accurately describe what I see. The plants and creatures, like a drawing. The world will bloom and come to me." It has been raining on the train for Wales. His studio, drops creeping across the window. A nice young woman in a pretty blouse glistens with makeup, bright and succulent. She watches me as I take up my notebook, begin to write, to describe. In Wales, all objects are continually renewed. Sun followed by rain, drenching clean. Before the sun arrives again, the fields and rivers are full, all things glitter and shine after this washing up. All plates and glasses gleam, an epiphany. I sit and wait on the empty platform. Trees freshly rinsed, leaves bright, verdant. The hills shifting in the flicker of cloud, a movement of shadows across the forest. Just a pair of coaches. The train has left, with all its interesting passengers. A last hidden whistle through the valley. A green caterpillar creeps along the track. Now, I was going to read one more poem, but that's for the refreshments, so I will leave that, and Meredith is going to tell us a bit about how she came to do the publishing of these books. Another Welsh link, so I'm glad you take over.
I'm going to talk about my favourite author, Diana Jones. She's best known as the author of children's fantasies such as Howl's Moving Castle, Fire and Hemlock, and Charmed Life, featuring the enchanted Chrestomanci. She gained a worldwide boost in popularity after Japan's Oscar-winning Studio Ghibli turned Howl's Moving Castle into an animated film. I fell in love with Diana's books and her style of writing as soon as I came across them more than 40 years ago. I was such a fan that I joined all the fan groups and produced a fanzine. Then in due course that moved onto the web, and I still run the official Diana Jones website. So as you can gather, Diana has a very dedicated fan base. We have a conference about her every few years, and we all think that she's the greatest writer of children's fiction in the world, particularly fantasy. So we generally can't understand why people like J.K. Rowling and Philip Pullman get far more attention. Diana is now getting a lot of critical attention, but she still is not as popular amongst readers as some of these other people. So I'm hopefully going to persuade you to go and try her out. In various discussions in the DWJ fan groups, people were moaning they couldn't get copies of Diana's very first book, Changeover, which is actually not a fantasy and was not aimed at children. It had a very small print run as a hardback back in 1970. So fans are saying they wish the publisher would reprint it. I work in publishing, and I realised that I actually could do the work of typesetting and editing and printing it. I was lucky enough to have met Diana several times, so I put it to her, and she was delighted at the thought of a reprint. And I think she was actually pleased that it was a fan who was going to do it. So that was my first involvement in publishing Diana's works. I set up a micro-publishing company, Moondust Books, and did a small print run of Changeover, which sold out long ago. I plan to reissue it, probably as print on demand, because, as I'm sure Stephen will agree, it's no fun having boxes of books in the house. So, although Diana is best known for her 40-odd children's books, which she started publishing in the early 1970s and continued to do up to her death in 2011, she also produced just about every other form of writing, from essays and criticism to reviews, poetry and plays. She covered a huge range of subjects. She was particularly interested in myths and legends, which obviously feeds into her fantasy writing, but her poems in particular show her wide interests, and in a bit I'm going to be reading a couple of extracts so you can see what I mean. When Diana became seriously ill, she asked her sister Isabel Armstrong, who was an academic and acclaimed poet herself, to see about publishing Diana's poems, most of which had never before been published and were actually aimed at adults, not children. So Isabel approached me, and obviously I said I couldn't afford it. No, obviously I was absolutely delighted. So my tiny little publishing company, which is basically me, produced a book of Diana's poems. Then, a few years on from that, Diana's literary agents had finished sorting out the papers and manuscripts and realised that also unpublished were her plays. She actually wrote those before anything else in the late 60s, before she really settled into her vocation as a writer of children's fantasies. A couple of the plays were performed in the Unicorn Theatre, which was Britain's first company dedicated to putting on plays for children, and in which Diana's other sister, Ursula Jones, was an actor and director. So they asked if I could publish the plays, and again, I was absolutely delighted. So in a way, I am the publisher of the odd bits, the outliers of Diana's writings. And that's great. I, like all of her fans, are really pleased to see her writings of all sorts out there and available to everyone who loves. So why do we like her books so much? First of all, out of more than 40 children's fantasies, each one is different and unique. The plots are tricky and interesting, and her characters are so real that they feel like people you could meet in the street. Also, Diana's stories don't sit easily with everybody, they're hard work. Her characters are often in very difficult situations. They might feel like outsiders, or they really are outsiders. or have uncaring parents, or face crazy challenges. I handled fan mail to her website, and I know kids from all around the world wrote to say how they related to these situations, and that Diana's books were a source of comfort and support to them. Some of her books make you think. I'm still a bit baffled by the ending of Fire and Hemlock, although Diana told a story about a book signing when the parents said the same thing, but their child turned around and said, "Don't be so stupid, Mum, it's obvious." So many children get the point better than adults. One literary critic said that Diana had to grow her readers, that her readers learn with the characters, and many child readers stick with her well into adulthood. She appeals to people of all ages. I remember Lara enjoyed some of her books when she was a teenager, and I got my mum into her as well. Diana and her books are very funny. She told another story that all creative people would relate to. She was deep into writing, and suddenly realised that the kids would be home from school soon and would want dinner. So she quickly rushed to the kitchen, chucked something into the oven, and went back to her book. So her sons came home to find a really weird smell of the jointed meat sitting on the kitchen counter. What she had put in the oven was a shoe. There's one other point about Diana that's very relevant to the day for celebrating women writers. She went to Oxford University, where she was actually taught by Tolkien. So clearly she was as capable as anyone else of having an academic career. She chose to have a family and to write. Her husband was academic, and in those circles, there were some people who looked down on Diana for her choice of writing children's books. Stuffy, unreadable adult literature would have been okay, but kids' books? Well, nowadays, there are academics writing their dissertations and their theses about Diana's books. And she was a major influence on several younger fantasy or children's writers, including Tamara Pierce, Robin Stevens, Tom Holt, and Catherine Rhiando. The science fiction writers Emily Tesh and Rebecca Freymal did an award-winning series of podcasts about her. Diana was supportive and helpful to other writers, and she was a much-loved personality amongst writers and fans at science fiction conventions. So to finish, I'm going to read a few short excerpts from her work. First, there's a bit near the end of Fire and Hemlock, which baffles me. This book is loosely based on the legend of Tam Lin. So Tom is obviously Tam, Laurel is the evil fairy queen, and Polly is the heroine of the story. Be quiet, both of you, Laurel said. I'm obliged to you, Charles. Tom's life is one of the most valuable we've had, even his infuriating habit of fighting everything I do. Morton needs a strong life just now. But the obligation has nothing to do with Leslie. At this, Mr. Piper lost his uneasy temper and shouted, "You unfeeling bitch!" Laurel raised her face and looked at him. "Go away," she said. Caught in the tunnels of her eyes, Charles Lynn put his arm across his glasses and staggered. Two servitors came up and took hold of him and looked at Laurel for instructions. "Take him home," said Laurel. As Mr. Piper disappeared backward among the crowd, still faintly trying to shout insults, Laurel turned, gently and sweetly, to Tom. "I'm sorry, Tom, but you will find the bargain holds. The picture was yours." "But it isn't," Polly thought. "He gave it to me." Mr. Piper was still to be heard in the background as she pushed her way forward. Seb made an effort to hang on to her, but she shook him off, hardly noticing. "I never agreed to it," Tom said. "Don't look her in the eyes, Polly." Laurel smiled at him indulgently. "Oh no, Polly," she said. "Didn't you hear me tell Charles I never make more than one bargain?" "Yes," said Polly, "and I agreed to forget Tom, though I never said for how long, and that isn't the same as giving him up. But I haven't come to quibble." She looked carefully between Laurel and Leslie. "I claim that Morton Leroy has forfeited his right to Tom's life, and he'll have to find someone else or go himself."